So, welcome everyone. This is Shelley Darling, and coming here hosting this call with Henry Lepler this morning, one of our Resonance Council members, and excited because this is day 28 of Love Lives Here. And today we did a special edition, an Indigenous edition for the Daily Digest. And we wanted to stay in resonance with that, so we're bringing forth today's call called Kanyini. And for some of us, that's a new concept, new understanding, and we'll be explaining that in the next few minutes. So for those of you that are new, welcome. And if you're on your phone, please put yourself on mute, or I'll have to do that. And the way this call works is we always have a heart resonance attunement to begin this call. Before that, I'll just share a little bit about Good of the Whole and Love Lives Here for those that are just joining us or finding out about it. And then I'll pass a crystal. And in fact, I have this really beautiful crystal here this morning. So we'll pass this crystal, this virtual crystal talking stick on this call. And I'll share a few guidelines of how this call is unique and how we can make it work for everybody. And then I'll express a little bit more about this.
Shelley, you're cutting in and out. I don't know if you can hear me.
Oh, okay. Well,
it must be the storm.
I am breaking up? Okay. So, all right. Well, that.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to let Henry start with the resonance, and then I'm going to get on my phone, and I think I'll have better reception. So Henry, I'm going to pass the talking stick over to you, and everyone put yourselves on mute, and I'll come back in on my phone and see if that's better.
Take a breath. Good morning, everyone. I just invite you to connect with your breath now. Maybe as we take 3 full deep breaths together. Maybe imagine you're connecting with your indigenous breath. Breathing in your own timing. Especially opening to the small pause in between the inhalations and the exhalations. And in those pauses, connect with that deep place. Perhaps that primary or primal place with that indigenous part of you, opening to that. Imagine that you are connecting with self, connecting with the other, the sacred other, and connecting with the earth, connecting with home. Maybe your actual home space, your building is, or maybe that home frequency. Now connecting with the earth and with all of life. And we are a microcosm of all of life. The original blessing, the original gift, the original impulse of life and the sacredness within each and every being, within each and every cell in our body. And so we'll be opening to that kind of the primal sense, or maybe the sense before thinking. which the Indigenous people, I imagine, would be more connected with. So getting back to our roots as we join into our convergence this morning of our hearts, our spirits, and of the delight in each of the cells in our body as we open to this time, this moment, and we open to what is emerging within us in this 40-day convergence, connection, reconnection, and we open to what is calling us uniquely and collectively at this time. So now bringing us all back into the space where we are and to that deeper connection and interconnection as we open to the reading, the inspiration for this morning. Thank you.
Okay, we may have to be very creative. Henry, Michael, can you hear me right now?
Yes, and
Okay.
you sound solid.
Okay.
I'll let you know if you break up, but
Okay.
you sound better.
Okay, so for those who are visual, just put a thumbs down if you can't hear me, okay? And I've come up with a creative way of doing this. So Henry, if for some reason I see a thumbs down, then I'm going to share my screen and you can read what this call is about if for some reason I see that. And I'm also going to, I'm going to share the screen with a picture right now as I describe to you. Well, actually, I don't know if I can do both, but we'll see. A little more about Kanyini. So welcome to those who've just come on. Really, this is hosted by Good of the Whole, and Love Lives Here, 40 Days of Reconnection. And just really simply as Good of the Whole stewards, which we all are, we're all in service, we're individual whole beings in service and contributing to a greater whole. So I think that's all I need to say right now. And for those that don't know about Love Lives Here, just go to loveliveshere.today and receive the daily digest of these beautiful offerings. So just holding that frequency, that home frequency that Henry was speaking to, I'm going to just share this screen as I describe to you a little more about Kanyini. Oops, where did it go? Hold on here. Okay. So for those of you that can see, you'll see the 4 principles, and I'm just going to simply describe the 4 principles and then take this off, and I'll just describe a little bit more. So the first thing I want to say, which is really, really important, is that we are all Indigenous. This is what probably the most, if you take anything from this call, Indigenous people are not separate from ourselves. They're not, they might have been here as the Aboriginals 40,000 years prior to you or I here today on this call. But their relationship, their understanding of ancestral wisdom, the stars, the sky, the earth, the elementals, are all held and contained within our own living Akash. And this is really important to remember as we're stepping into this call, that we are that. You know, we are that. And at the same time, we really have respect and deep honoring for those native people, you know, the original people, for what they've held in their heart for thousands of years, and this relationship to peace, really, being in harmony with the earth, with the cosmos. So for those of you who can't see, I'm just going to describe very simply this Kanyini, these 4 principles. And what we're seeing is this visual of the first principle, which I'll describe in a minute when I take the screen down, Ngura, which is really the land, home, and belonging. And if you can imagine the earth and this sort of cosmic being with these 2 interconnecting ley lines of, we could see them as our DNA, we can see them as 2 serpents intertwining, the divine masculine and the divine feminine, moving up to the solar plexus. So, and I'm not sure if I'm saying this right because I can't see my notes, but Walytja, which is family, connection with life. So love, not just as one big concept of love, unconditional love, but unconditional love with the interconnectedness of all life, connecting with the land and home and belonging, moving up to the connection with all life and family, and then Kurunpa, the love or spirit of soul, right? This connection with the heart and the higher heart, and then moving up to tjukurrpa, which is belief is our relationship to creation itself, and this living in alignment with this right alignment with our own being, this fullness of self, this whole self connected to that soul star. So if you just can imagine that for the moment. And I'm just going to stop the sharing of the screen. So Kanyini, again, is this principle of interconnectedness through caring and responsibility. And that's the key word here, this social responsibility, this innate, inherent relationship and responsibility to all earth, right? And these 4 principles in relationship to these four, how would I describe these 4 principles, right? Ngura, that sense of belonging; Walytja, the family connection to with all of life; Kurunpa, the love spirit of soul; and tjukurrpa, the belief about all creation. And these 2 energy lines that exist through the universe, an energetic consciousness of all life, these 2 snakes going in opposite directions as they interconnect and energize each other. So that's another important piece, and help each other up to the next level. So living in that higher octave. And today, as we're gathering together, as we're cultivating a conscious, interconnected global community, so that relationship of local and global in resonance with Earth, we're deepening into the field this morning of how we see this consciousness of Kanyini being implemented into every aspect of our life. So that was a lot, so take a breath with that. And I'm going to just describe these simple guidelines to follow for this call. Everybody still hearing me? Do I get a thumbs up? All right, okay. So, there are many beautiful types of calls, types of groups that are coming together all over the world, really building the field of coherence for greater love, greater connection, and possibility. And we come together in this circle as whole beings, expressions of this evolution of consciousness coming through us and as us, in deep resonance. So what's resonance? It's being in that sympathetic space. If you think of a guitar, where each strings on this, in this global choir of love, really focused on that harmonic, which is the field of love itself. So today, these simple guidelines are just a way to hold the container for that activation that happens as a collective when we come together. So we're holding this field of an energy of resonance. This is a participatory call. So each person can speak 1 to 2 minutes, and then acknowledge when they're complete or whole, or we are complete, whatever works for you. And you can speak more than once, but we want to invite, one of the most powerful pieces is the pause, as Henry was describing. To allow a pause, not only for the people that are on the call who are on the phone to unmute themselves, because that's important as well, but to allow this infusion of information to come in, to be shared in the exact right moment. So that pause is just trusting the silence before we speak. And as a collective, consciously listening, following this thread. We're weaving a tapestry together, building this field of coherence. We want to consciously listen and speak from the whole, from your heart to the whole, to the center of this circle. And the invitation is not to just jump and respond to someone individually with their name and, oh my God, I love you and what you're doing, but to hold the field, to speak in present time. So that's much more about the bottom line of a story you're sharing, or it's really that I am present speaking. So with that, it's pretty simple. And again, Kanyini, this understanding of our interconnectedness, our caring for each other and the earth with that innate, inherent sense of responsibility. So with that, I am complete and whole and home. And I pass this beautiful crystal in, and talking stick, if you can't see, it's this big, beautiful crystal. And feel free to speak when you feel that timing is just perfectly in alignment with the energy that's moving.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? My name is Miles Flegg, and I like to say it's Miles with a Y. I've always had to spell my name out, say it's M-Y-L-E-S. And over time, I started to think, well, indeed, I'm often thinking about the question why, and so over time, I've started to think of myself as Miles with a Y, and insofar as not only the question why, but now even a purpose of why. And it's a synchronicity for me that this is the first call that I've joined in, because it's about the Indigenous people. And I'm in a location called Mokinistis, and it's otherwise known as Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I'm on the traditional territory of the Niitsitapi, who are more commonly referred to as the Blackfoot Confederacy. And I must confess, I just recently am trying to figure out what stage of development I'm in, and I just actually set upon the phrase "I'm a child of love," because so much of this concept of love is really new to me, even though I'm 58 years old. It was, I would say, about 10 years ago that I met a Métis man. Now, Métis in Canada, that means the person has both Aboriginal ancestry, and his name is Tom Jackson, and he writes some beautiful songs. He's very talented. He has the Order of Canada, and produces a lot of beautiful music. And one day I was at a session that he was presenting at. He was the guest speaker, and he said, it's all about love. And I'm thinking, yeah, well, I wonder what's love, and what does that mean? And so for a long time, I've been trying to come to terms with that word because it's not part of contemporary capitalism. It's not part of my experience working in corporations and large and then more recently a small corporation and thinking there's something missing. And since being laid off, I'm in search of something more. And the indigenous worldview is playing into that because I'm concerned about the environment for the sake of my teenage children. And I've created this document or illustration, which I realized is not mine. It's a collective work. And in fact, I'll send it out to everybody here because I feel that it's an inspired work through the encouragement of people. And I want to be very careful that nobody accuses me of appropriating these symbols and what they mean. But and in a sense, it's all about taking this country to a higher level. Canada's an incomplete odyssey, as a historian has written. And it occurred to me that all these people, including Americans and others around the world, they're helping me to move forward in issues with respect to the lack of love that we've shown to our Indigenous people. And so I want to be very careful about moving forward with it. But with that, I'll conclude and let someone else speak.
This is Henry. I'm feeling strongly the presence of the Indigenous soul. Not sure exactly what that means, but as I progress through the attunement within the energy field of everyone present, it seemed to appear, want to express itself. So I just, and I love, I'm taking in, I'm opening to that presence because I want to invite it more and more into this moment. To know it, to understand it, to know it within myself. And so that's what feels most important at this point. I feel complete for now.
If I may, I'll just include one of the symbols I've drawn here, and this is the two-row wampum. The two-row wampum actually connects all of us here in North America, and actually, I believe, connects Europeans with the Indigenous people of this land, which we call America or North America. Unfortunately, I don't know that a lot of people realize America means love of riches. And, it's ironic in that our economic system is one of pursuit of riches, but the material riches, and we're overlooking the spiritual riches that are the Indigenous people. I don't have it right now, but I have a album, or pardon me, a scrapbook cover that I had from when I was 7 years old. I was always very proud of it. It has all these images of settlers coming across Canada and building the country. But if you look at it carefully, there's not one single representation of any Indigenous peoples in this scrapbook cover. And I think we are in a time of apocalypse, which I just recently learned from a fellow down at the University of Texas, means Richard Jensen, I believe his name is. And apocalypse means unveiling. And so, the word doesn't have to be a fearful word. It can mean actually an unveiling of love, what we're talking about here. And this two-row wampum is so spiritually advanced in its concept, and it comes to us actually from New York. So when I said earlier about how, although this is a particular Canadian context, everybody here and some of the people I've just mentioned and are contributing to a national improvement here in a way. If I can keep moving this illustration forward and promote the concept of the two-row wampum, which is all about two watercraft traveling the river of life. Gaswanta is one of the words used for the river of life, and the one watercraft is a canoe, and the other watercraft is to be the ship, like the explorers came in over on. And interconnecting the two, according to faith keeper Oren Lyons, is peace, unity, and the power of the good minds, which is really peace and friendship, in my opinion. It's another way to put that concept, that we are linked, or we need to be linked between the two watercraft by peace and friendship, and the power of the good mind. And this word also has a particular, or this phrase, peace and friendship, has a very powerful memory, almost numinous aspect to it for me, because I was blessed. I'm obviously someone who has had a life of privilege, because when I was 16 years old, our high school took a trip to Moscow and Leningrad, as it was known, and into the Soviet Union. It was November 1976. Pardon me. Take a deep breath. So I received a postcard given to me in person from a very, very kind young lady, and on the postcard was on the back of it where there's the phrase peace and friendship, and then the next statement, and she spoke English quite well. The next statement from her was, why does your country want to destroy my country? And I was like, I was just taken aback, because I'm thinking, well, that's not the way it is. When we flew into the Soviet Union airspace, we were met by a MiG fighter. We were told you cannot take photos outside of the window. And when we landed, one of the students, against the rules, was carrying a copy of Dr. Zhivago, and they had created quite a situation there at the airport, and she had to give up the book, but they fortunately let her through. So I'm thinking, well, where are you coming from? Peace and friendship, accusing my country of trying to destroy your country. But I've since learned that they do view their homeland as a motherland, and that they have had real reasons to be fearful, and that there were missed opportunities. And President John F. Kennedy was actually searching out for a peace race, which is something I had never heard of until very recently. In a speech at the American universities calling for a peace race. And there are people who believe a terrific opportunity was missed to extend peace and friendship between our NATO allies and what was then the Soviet Union. So to me, the First Nations of the world, with their this Australian concept, they have so much to teach us that we need to, without further delay, get on with embracing and recognizing and appreciating it, because they can show us a way to peace that I don't think our mindset, for some reason, has deviated from our original Indigenous beliefs. I'll pause.
Deep breath. In the moment, feeling our ancestry speaking through us. This is Dinama. And it is the call to this moment, to being present, fully present now, that we recall all this wisdom and choose consciously to embody it. I'm complete.
June, we can't hear you. There you go. Try that.
Hear me now?
Yes.
Oh. With all of the focus on ancestors, it brings back for me my 30 years of studying with a Basque wisdom keeper, Angela Isreal, and how her work was all about bringing love at all aspects of being, and bringing and seeing that love must be across from power, so that we are powerful in our love and we're not a victim. And she just brought love into every single thing that we worked with. And we would take people on the land for vision quests for 4 days and 4 nights with nothing but water, a little bit of maple syrup, and something to lie on, and nothing else, because the whole point was, how do we work with the land, with life from deep within ourselves, instead of not being present by doing other things. And we would take pictures of the people going onto the land before they left. And they were excited, they said intentions, or they were afraid because some of them had never been on the land before. But when we took pictures of them coming back, it was like seeing new people. It was like seeing people who had finally found a part of themselves they had never known before, and a strength of being able to sit in silence for 4 days and 4 nights with nothing but the land and the sky and creatures on it to fill themselves with. And they came back with 3 seeds: seed of the work needed with self, work needed with one another, and the work needed with the community. And it so fits in with what I think the Indigenous world brings us such a closeness and a connection to our being a part of the earth, a part of the cosmos, instead of this separate human being who somehow controls or can make the rest of it work, which is certainly not possible. And so I'm just deeply touched as I'm listening and remembering, and really helps me to connect back into myself and into the wisdom of all of our Indigenous peoples, myself included. I'm complete. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Daisy Borges. On Facebook, you'll find me as Sunshine Houlihan. And I'm very grateful for this space to be of heart with you all. And as Shelley has been saying, many of you all have been working at this for many a year. And that there are groups forming who are doing this work. And so we come together today and we talk about the Indigenous. And I heard June mention the cosmos and the cosmic. And so, we have, and the earth. And so we have our many kingdoms, whether it be the fairy kingdom, the animal kingdom, and that we all are as one. And many have been working on the heart and realizing the way through is to be of heart. And many of you have been water blessers and water carriers and corn carriers, carrying corn around the world and placing crystals and creating this harmonic that we can actually feel here, because as above, so below, we live in the physical here. And I just wanted to say that what we all feel is the way through is love, and that the mastery of self in the whole is what it's about. So thank you very much for creating this space. And that I wanted to share one more point is to the nice fellow in Canada is I happened to meet Elder Warren Lyons once myself, and he was amazing. I was pregnant with a small child, and he was giving a lecture to the National Park Service about the repatriation of national park objects back to the tribes. And he came to my home, and I was pregnant with my small child, and I sat on the floor. And when he started talking about, and I wanted to bring in the youth, the children now, when he started, because that's part of our work is the youth and the children with all their wonderful abilities. And as he started talking about the children of his tribe and how preventing drug abuse or and making lacrosse come up in the culture of the Onondaga people of New York, his aura shooted up in brilliant purple. And so the love and the dedication that we have, I think part of our work is for the children of this earth as they come in with more abilities. And I just wanted to bring up, when we are doing our purpose, these divine things occur and we are in creative connection with Source. So thank you. We are complete.
This is Shelley. And I'm going to just pull on that thread of the children. For those who can't see, Danama is holding her grandbaby, beautiful little baby that we've been lucky enough to have on our calls recently for a while. And I'm in Nebraska, really surrounded by a lot of family, friend Julie Kroll's family, and there's a lot of children. And it's been really incredible in being here because I didn't grow up in a world where my family was all really interconnected. And we worked together and we came together because of that love. We came together because of holidays, religious holidays or whatever. But there wasn't that sense of communion. But here with this family in Nebraska, you know, they come together out of so much love. And there's no separation between the children and the adults, and everyone's just one, experiencing each other, nature, you know, different foods, everything. And I feel that holds the frequency of this Indigenous understanding where there was such a simplicity of relationship to each other, you know, and this wonderment of earth, of the land, of the food, respect, deep honoring. And so much of that Indigenous wisdom, as we can see out in the world now, I've been connected to the grandmothers of the sacred we, and the grandmothers in New Zealand, and we all have been aware of the 12 Indigenous grandmothers, and these different components that are coming forth as that one voice for the 7 generations, and to become aware of the children. So for me, you know, in terms of Kanyini, this caring and responsibility as one consciousness, that we hold that child within ourselves. You know, we've had the opportunity. You know, sometimes my mother will say, "Well, I didn't have to think about, you know, my food," and you know, and I said that was because there wasn't Monsanto, and there wasn't spraying of these giant fields, and there wasn't, you know, we have to be careful of GMOs, or, you know, so this is part of this new evolution of each one of us becoming aware. Well, you know, we never had to think about plastic. There wasn't plastic going back, you know, 50 years. You know, these are the conveniences that we brought forth, and now we take responsibility. But in essence, I think part of this, the turning that I feel in my own body, and I don't know the answer, like how am I holding that for my children, for my grandchildren, you know, and the sense of peace and unity and peace and friendship. You know, of course, it all begins right here inside of me, you know. I'm carrying, you know, I've never done this before. I'm carrying around a glass straw. And I have a few others for those that I come in contact with. I mean, that's a simple thing, but it's a step, you know, and each one of us realizing what that step is, and how we can hold this reverence. So I guess that's the word that I want to bring into this oceanic field of love here this morning, is this deep sense of reverence that we hold for, that we're, you know, we hold here, obviously here, but how we hold it when we're in other groups. You know, how we, you know, I used to be really pushy with that information, and now I'm learning to just, actually the words that came up so much in my meditation this morning was patience and understanding, patience and deepening trust. If I can have that patience, if I can have that trust in my own journey, and listen and hold a wider understanding of how we ended up here, that there is no need for judgment on myself or judgment on another. So I feel like that's all a part of this understanding of Kanyini, you know, this deep reverence for the earth and all creatures on it. So I pass the talking crystal forward, and we are complete.
This is Henry. Just wanted to follow a thread or two. About the way through is being at heart. And I want to link it with an expression that I heard another share that I liked and appreciated, which expresses that too, is that for the shift from 3D to 5D, third dimension, to fifth dimension, or to the new, is through the golden key of compassion. That's another term that we can use, but that helps to unlock and open that doorway through the heart. Another piece I want to connect with is that visual drawing from the Kanyini, which I like. The drawing helped to understand those terms better. Is first that it's like a number of infinity symbols moving down, intertwining all the different levels of our being. And one of the things that, I noticed that the snakes were different colors too. One was a rainbow color and the other was more brown, but it had some other colors through it too. I'm not sure what that represents. But I wanted to bring in first so I kind of connect one of the snakes with the longing that is within us, and that inner knowing that there's a better way, and knowing that we have within us to co-create that better way. And the other snake is the promise. I guess that's connected with the inner knowing too, but so it's that intertwining of all of both of those through the doorway of the heart, through the doorway of our interconnectedness, through the doorway of the gifts that each of us have shared here and are continue to be sharing in our circle, in our tapestry. So I feel complete.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Linda, and I'm in Indiana. I'm calling in by phone today, but I'm appreciating the visuals of the snakes and the intertwining and the balance of masculine, feminine. Reminds me of the Kundalini as it rises up our chakras to bring us to higher states of awareness and our enlightenment and our total connection to spirit and one with everything. And that takes me to a beautiful greeting from the indigenous Native Americans, and it's Ahomatakwiasan, which means all my relations. And it's so simple, and it's all our relations and connections to everything. Through our bodies, through the earth, to all that grows on the earth, to all that the earth gives us, and to each other, and every generation, from the children to the elders, in every land, and in this incredible solar system that Mother Earth is spinning in is that we are all related to the stars, to the cosmos, to the great beyond, and it feels like pure love, the generosity of love, that we are alive, that we're present, that we can acknowledge this and be aware of it. So very filled with gratitude and love, and riding that wave of the Kundalini energy rising, and it feels great. And I am complete. Oh, Atakwiasan.
Oh, yes.
This is June again, and it brought forward for me the reminder that if we can live the braided way, which is about what's taking what was ancient and has worked and that still works, and adding to that what it is we're learning now, and believe that will work, and braid them together, we keep what is good and deep and what works, and we end up so much more respecting those who have come before us. And so I don't know if you can see this, but it's a bracelet of the braided way, and it's a reminder when you look at it to always respect what's come before, and to bring to that wisdom something new to see if it works too, never giving away that which works or that which our ancient ancestors brought forward from their heart and from their own wisdom. I'm complete.
Hello, it's Miles again. And with respect to the illustration of the Shelleys from the Australian Indigenous people, the intertwining of the masculine and the feminine was also mentioned. And it's something that I'm trying to come to terms with, part of this unveiling, which I find very disturbing at times. But, I guess it's not easy to go through this process of rebirth. But I have an article here related to the struggle, or the conflict that shouldn't exist between the masculine and the feminine. And I've recently learned the logos and the eros not being in harmony. There's an article here that struck me such that I made sure I copied it. It's titled, "First Nations Women Aren't Told They're Brilliant Nearly Enough." And it's so true. I had the blessing to attend what's called the blanket ceremony a couple of weeks ago. And what a blanket ceremony is we're going through what's called truth and reconciliation. And it started in about 2008 with an apology from the Prime Minister to the First Nations. And that's just, an apology are just words. It has to be made manifest into something real and substantial. And that's where I'm of the opinion we have to have our First Nations not only as a First Nation recognized as being here first, but that they're also the first pillar, and that that we need to culturally embrace them. And it's wrong that we have only 2 official languages in Canada. As you may know, 2 official languages are French and English, but there's actually at least a dozen separate language groups forming 60 or 70 different language dialects. And all of those should be official languages everywhere across this country. And the culture, the way things get done, needs to embrace that indigenous wisdom, which include very much a high level of respect and authority for the indigenous women, as one of the callers mentioned, Faith Keeper Oren Lyons of the Onondaga, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, Iroquois Confederacy. He says that for the longest time, even when talking with Benjamin Franklin, the question was raised, well, sure, okay, you're borrowing from our symbols and these concepts to create your American Constitution, but he said, where are the women? And that is such an oversight for all these years. And indeed, it was a coincidence that just a couple of years ago, I happened to be involved in an initiative about body positivity, and I was at a set of some statues in our city here, and it portrays the 5 suffragettes that changed the legislation to have women recognized as persons. And that was October 29th, 1929, I believe. So it hasn't even been 100 years in Canada that women have been officially recognized as persons. And I believe that men such as myself have to really address this ongoing grievance. And I'd like to just mention Russell Means, who has passed away, and he struggled with his own violence, but he worked hard to come to terms with it, and he wrote a book titled "Where White Men Fear to Tread." And essentially, as I reflect on reading that, it is about what white men fear to tread is to recognize this divine feminine and the important role that matriarchy needs to give the chance to play, because until such time as that occurs, there's not going to be the harmony that we need. And again, that's so much a part of the indigenous wisdom and the indigenous worldview that we need to stop and reflect on and incorporate. With that, I'm complete.
So let's all breathe with this, and we like to give time right before we spiral into the next moment to allow people who have been on the phone or people who haven't had a share to see if they feel that there's something that they want to bring forth. So we're going to do that, and while the rest of us just hold space, like this beautiful resonance.
This is Michael, and thank you for the call, Shelley. I will bring the Peruvian way, the word is anai, is reciprocity and the guiding principle. Means to give back and to circulate energy, goods, knowledge, and labor for the benefit of family, society, and culture. And that's the intertwining that we're doing. Thank you, Shelley.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kathy Wallace. I'm speaking from Red Deer, Alberta, Canada. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'd first like to acknowledge that I live on the traditional lands of the Blackfoot, Cree, and Saulteaux people, and also the Métis Nation Region 3. I also send deep respect to traditional Indigenous elders, past, present, and future. As I understand, in all my years of learning on the spiritual path, Indigenous peoples are our guides to the new world. So the topic today was Kanyini, and it talks about a connection to the dream time and to Mother Earth and to the spirits. And I would like to suggest that one of the shifts that have to happen is we have to stop coming from our mind. The left brain mind is hugely overrated, perhaps 5% of all of our whole being. And that's one of the perversions of our energy being that capitalism and the patriarchy has visited on us. So rather than coming from our left brain thoughts, I myself have learned to follow more of the Indigenous ways as I understand, which is to come from the dream time and to come from Mother Earth and to come from my spiritual center and connecting with all of those pieces of existence as the guidance rather than our left brain mind. So every day I pray and give thanks back to all existence and pray for guidance and how to move forward on the path of healing. And that to me is the connection that Kanyini refers to. It's very different from what we've been brainwashed into thinking when we use our thinking brain, that tiny little left brain, to guide us. So I give endless gratitude to the great mystery and the spirits, Mother Earth, and I'll just close by saying all my relations.
Aho. So thank you all for bringing your hearts here this morning. This one global heart speaking as each essence. And thank you for staying on a few minutes later than the call to allow that voice to ripple out. And so let's take a moment to, with gratitude and the presencing that was just expressed, to ripple our love out. Just a note, for those of you who are hearing this for the first time and you want more of these offerings, you want to hear more about the 40 days of reconnection, Love Lives Here, go to loveliveshere.today. And also really important, because this will be the last Global Heart Resonance that's a part of the 40 days. And if you really love coming together with us and want to share that with your friends, connections, this is the space we hold every Monday. And you'll have to go to Good of the Whole and sign in for the Global Heart Resonance call. And I will post that for people after this call as well, so that we can continue coming together. So thank you so much. This has been just an absolutely beautiful call. Thank you for bringing your hearts, your tears, you know, all of those feelings here as we really listen to the presencing of the earth through us and as us. So aho everyone. Thank you, Henry. Just a beautiful presence here. And if you're interested in being part of this resonance team, please let us know as well. So much love, and have a beautiful, beautiful day. Carry this into tomorrow through the next moment. Aho.
Thank you.
Oh wait, I forgot the most important piece. Sorry. So we always end this call with rippling our love out to, I'm so deep in, I completely forgot, with this global yum. So this vibration of yum, this vibration of love. So the way we end the calls just goes like this. Everyone take themselves off mute, and goes like this. Yum, 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 yum. Thank you. All right. Blessings. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.